Hi, my name is Mhlauli-Moses from Healthy Black Women and Successful Black Women. And I'm here today with my good friend Shaquita Graham from Loving the Black Man. How are you today, Shaquita?
I'm doing great, Noma. How are you?
I'm doing great. We're talking today about this topic of, do black men really hate black women? And before everybody starts, getting up in arms about it, we're not baiting the gender war. We were actually talking about an article at Black and Married with Kids. I'm looking at my notes over here because I want to get it right. And it was written by Aisha Adams Roberts. And you brought up this article as an interesting topic to discuss. So can you tell me a little bit about the article?
Yeah, I saw this article, and I also saw an awesome video called She, an Ode to Black Women on YouTube, and 7 to 10 black men talked about what they love about black women. So obviously, for me, I know that the answer is no. However, I've heard many people say, and even Aisha comments on this in her article, that there's some type of civil war between black men and black women. And it's just not true. It's been disproved statistically. And for some reason, a lot of people are buying into it. But her article just talked about how she was fed up with this myth, and she really wanted to talk to some black men about what they love about black women. And in this video, oh my gosh, I could watch the video over and over again. It's called An Ode to the Black Woman on YouTube. And so she basically goes down the 5 things that she repeatedly heard from, I think she interviewed maybe 7 to 10 black men, and what they said. So these 5
things are the 5 things that black men say that they love or want in a black woman, right? And yeah. Obviously there's a woman that you're considering as a life partner.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. Okay. I can't say that she was talking to them as a life partner, but definitely I think if it's something that you love about black women, that's what causes black men to marry black women at a high rate. Of course, the majority of black men are married to black women. Okay. And that continues to be a statistic. So the first thing she talked about was curves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we've got those.
I can definitely relate. I identify not as necessarily as African American, but African. And one thing I can say about African men is they love a woman with curves. If you ask them, they consistently answer, "I love a woman with curves." And I don't think it's that different here.
I mean, I would think, to me, it seems like any man would love curves, but definitely, I identify as African American, just all of those things. But whenever I'm around the house talking about dieting, my husband's like, "Don't get too skinny," don't lose too much weight. Because the bottom line of men, they are looking for the opposite of them. You have those things that they can hold on to, and I think it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
And I've seen so many black women model, and it brings so much to the table when you see them in photos and things. It's just amazing. The workmanship of God on the black woman.
So what else? On this, you said there were 5 things?
Yeah. So the second thing is independence. And I think, that can get us in trouble at times, but I think for the most part that independence is, when you're in a relationship, you need somebody who can at least hold their own. You don't need them to take it to the level of being a dictator, but you need someone who can say, "Hey, look, I'm going to own my role here, and I'm going to make the decisions that I need to make for the good of the whole and under the leadership of my husband and my mate. But at the same time, I am going to own what I know to be right for me in this role."
I totally agree. And I think sometimes independence also goes to an independent thinker.
Yeah.
As in somebody who's not easily influenced by fads and friends and relatives and just floats all over the place. And she can actually, stand on her values and her beliefs. And if that requires sometimes having to stand apart from everybody else, then so be it.
Exactly. And it has to do with, having conviction. To me, like you said, being an independent thinker, you have a conviction and you have a standard about what's important in life, to prioritize things and to shun all kinds of fears and all kinds of distractions that would try to deter you. And I think that when a lot of Black men talk about what they want in Black women, that is what they want to see more of, because a lot of the media and the propaganda is kind of messing with that ability to be an independent thinker, because we're kind of buying into, or sometimes some women are buying into these propaganda, just these images of, hey, we want to be out here twerking and doing all of this other stuff, instead of thinking independently and saying, listen, I want to do what's best for my family, for my husband, and these types of things.
Absolutely. And I just want to mention on the topic of independence that, like you said, you alluded to it in the beginning. You said this can get us into trouble. This is not talking about the finger snapping, head rolling. I don't need a man. No. I could do it on my bum. What's the saying again? I could do it by my bad self. None of that. We're talking about independence in a healthy way. Wouldn't you say?
Yes.
And I know you have 3 other points from that list of 5 things, but I wanted us to also be mindful of, okay, we're talking about what a man wants in a woman, and I think that oftentimes the question that comes back is, well, what about women? What should they be looking for in terms of what is a good man? And I think that question is a valid question. If you talk about what are the brothers looking for in a woman, then what are the sisters looking for in a man? And I keep emphasizing that word man because not every male is necessarily a man.
Right. But I have a website called Loving the Black Man. So, I'm a big fan of the Black man, and I believe there's a lot that he brings to the table. I mean, we could focus on the physical side, but that might take us off track. But let's just talk about, the first thing that I realized I needed to look for in a man when I was really getting serious about finding a mate is character. And a lot of times we don't really reflect on the character that the Black man is shown throughout, from ancient times through now. When Black men have traveled the earth, they always brought civilization. They brought education with them. They brought mathematics with them. They brought science with them. They did not go around the world pillaging and killing. They were able to work and trade with other civilizations. They were able to build civilizations. So I think inherent in the Black man is that ability to have strong character. That's one thing that I think is important in a man. If I had to just start with that, I would go there. What about you?
So if we get technical with it, if we say that, Black men want women with curves, then the other end of that would be I can personally speak for myself. I think one of the things that I think is important is not necessarily curves, of course, that's silly if you're looking at a man, but I think strength. And in every single way, not just aesthetically, as in look at him, he's big and buff, but don't get it twisted. Okay. Don't get it twisted. That counts too. Okay. I want him strong. Okay. I want to know that I'm protected and that I can depend on him and rely on him to have my back, not just if there's a real life threat, but if there's other threat to my sense of wellness, to my emotional well-being. And it takes a strong man to navigate that, whether it's his inner world or the outer world that he's dealing with. So to me, strength in a man is just such an attractive quality, and it's not just about physical strength, it's about strength in every way, in the sense that he's just a strong man who stands on his convictions and his beliefs, and he loves his family. To me, that just blows me over, and I happen to have that in our home, so I know that that's something that I really value. And then
definitely
you said independence, and I think that works the same way, in the sense that if you're going to say a woman should be an independent thinker and be able to think about what's good for her and her family and her home, the expectation should be the same with a man, that he should also be an independent thinker. There's nothing more sorry than a man who's blown all over the place by all kinds of things, in the sense that his homeboy said this and now that's what goes. His mama said this.
Or
and now
even
that's
by
what,
you.
Yeah, or even you, where you have too much. You should have some influence, but nobody wants a little sissy that they can push around either. I won't speak for anybody. I'll speak for myself. I don't want that.
Okay.
Right.
My husband is quick to tell me, like, okay, I appreciate your opinion, but this is what we need to do.
Right.
And I've had to learn to accept that, because sometimes we say we love something, but then when he says, okay, well, that's good, now have a seat and I'm going to do this, then we get mad. You know what I'm saying?
So independence is like, important. It's important in a man as well. I know the third thing, because you told me ahead of time, was confidence. And this was what black men say they find attractive in a woman, is confidence. And what do you think that means?
Well, the thing is that the narrative that I think propaganda is trying to perpetuate is something that chips away at our confidence in who we are as black men and black women.
Right.
And the one thing that you will find if you are with black women, a lot of times, number one, we know that we know that we're fly. We know that we have it going on. We know that we bring a lot to the table, that we're strong, that we are self-reliant. Like, a black woman can mix together all kinds of raw materials, deal with all kinds of problems, and she can handle that. She has the confidence to say, you know what? We don't have this, we don't have that, or we're working on this, we're working on that, and they can pull all of those things together and make it work. So I think confidence is just about believing in yourself and what you bring to the table. I think that having confidence also translates into being able to respect your mate, because you have confidence that you chose the right person, that you are evaluating them properly, that you can trust, you know where to place your trust and where not to. So I think confidence has to do with your ability to judge things rightly.
I really love that last point, because, I've talked a lot about trust, and I find that a lot of people are mistrustful. And unfortunately, I see it more with black men and black women, very mistrustful. And I think some of that comes from actually not trusting yourself to make the right decision, and having the expectation that another person will do something wrong, so you don't trust them. But at the bottom of that, or at the back of that, is not trusting yourself to have made a good decision about who you've allowed in your life. And I often say, the older I get, the more I rely on my instinct and my intuition. If something doesn't smell right, somewhere down the line, something will be revealed why I had that initial resistance or reaction to it. So I trust my instincts and I trust myself. And that actually does then project confidence, because I trust myself and I know that I'm doing the right thing. Of course, everybody's can make mistakes about who they trusted and what they're doing and the decisions. But for the most part, if you trust yourself, you can be confident, not only in yourself, but in your partner, and in the people that you allow into your life. So definitely, I think confidence is a big thing. And again, when we hit it, onto the other side and say, is confidence in a man something that a woman looks for? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And then the other thing is, I think we should always be mindful not to confuse confidence and arrogance. What you'll find
definitely.
that distinguishes confidence and arrogance is confidence has a humility with it.
I was just going to say that.
Right.
I was going to say it's understated. It's often understated.
Right. It's a person who's confident also has humility. And I think that's also another thing, that if you're a woman who really wants to make a good decision about who you're going to spend your time or your life with, a man who is confident but also has humility, again, for me, I can't say it enough. That's just so attractive in a person, when they have that confidence that doesn't spill over into arrogance, which arrogance obviously is a person who has an overinflated idea of their ability, of their importance, and just of themselves in general.
And I think that's what we have to be so careful, because we can fall into a trap to think that these virtues are something that's really exterior. I mean, something that you would see on the exterior. Many times confidence, strength, and all of those things are understated. You would find that in that man, not the one that's standing up trying to make it rain, show off his car, or the female that has, all of the external things, not to say there's anything wrong with colored hair or dressing up, but a lot of times the more natural, you will find it in the person that's reserved, because they have control over all of those attributes, so nothing is overrepresented.
Right.
And so that goes to the fifth one. You hit strength when you said that in a man. They love that in Black women also. And then vulnerability. So being vulnerable is something that Aisha stated that Black men love about Black women. And I think that really has to do with honesty and humility. What do you think?
I think this one is a tough one, because I've said it, just a few minutes ago, that one of the things that I've observed about a lot of the Black men and Black women is that they have a really hard time trusting other people, especially when it comes to love relationships. And vulnerability is something that comes after the trust. So if you can't get to that point of trusting yourself and trusting another person, anybody would be stupid to be vulnerable with somebody you don't trust. Why would you put yourself in that position? However, it goes back to what I was saying about confidence comes from, trusting yourself, trusting your decision-making process, and being willing to take a risk. The truth is, right, vulnerability has a risk factor. It always has, and it always will. When you invite anybody, not even in a romantic relationship, anybody into your life, there's a risk that they might do something wrong, and something very, very wrong. They could hurt you, harm you, whatever it is. And when they do, sometimes that could leave you in a vulnerable position if you weren't expecting it, or if you thought that that's not who they were, and so forth. Now, when it comes to a relationship between a man and a woman, that's even more important. You marry somebody and they're in your house, or you're in their house, or you're in that house together. Almost everything that they do affects you. So you're very vulnerable to everything,
Right.
But at the same time, it's the risk that you have to take, because when you close out a person because you're afraid or you're mistrusting, and you close out the possibility of something bad happening, you're also closing out the good, in that you'll never really connect with another person unless you allow yourself to be vulnerable.
Yeah, and I think number one, the mistrust that, you can find in Black relationships a lot of times, or between the Black man and the Black woman, is misplaced. And it's, again, perpetuated by propaganda. But I do associate vulnerability with transparency in a sense. And sometimes being vulnerable means saying, listen, I don't really feel comfortable with this. That is a form of being transparent and vulnerable, putting all your cards on the table instead of trying to shield how you feel by pretending that you feel another way. So I think that you can use that word in the same way. And
right. So you think honesty and transparency.
I associate that with vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
But the bottom line is this, I think in a man, first of all, a man that's looking for that feminine energy, sometimes we neglect using our feminine energy that will allow us to be that way, to be transparent. Instead, we divert to a very abrasive or aggressive role instead of just saying, I was hurt by this. And I don't feel good about this, or this bothered me. Instead of coming from a very reserved and feminine energy, we can really take on a masculine energy because we do feel as if we're being exposed by being that way.
Yeah, you feel threatened, you feel unsafe, and so forth, and I completely agree. So definitely it's not easy, and just the same way you said that sometimes that mistrust is misplaced, sometimes it's not misplaced, and that's the risk part. And you do have to go back to that point of, trusting yourself to make the right decisions, and doing what's best for yourself, and continuing to do that even when you do run into people where your trust was misplaced. Still go back to that position of healing and trusting yourself. So I like that list,
Yeah, me too.
and I think at some points, with the exception of the curves, I think it works both ways in the sense that what a woman and a man look for in a partner are similar. Even though I always say that men and women are not the same, never have been, never will be. However, we do tend to look for similar things in the sense that we won't invest in a relationship unless those things are there, whether we're aware of it or not. And if you don't take the time to think about those things, I think that's where you go wrong and end up in a bad situation.
Absolutely. And check out that video again, An Ode to the Black Woman. So I think we can conclude that, yes, the Black man loves the Black woman and will always love the Black woman.
I'm just jotting it down, An Ode to the Black Woman. So I can also check it out because I didn't have a chance to look at it.
Yeah, it's called She, An Ode to the Black Woman.
She.
So SHE in all caps.
Okay. Oh, An Ode to the Black Woman. Okay. Well, this has been another great conversation in a segment of Your Black Women, where Black women keep it real. My name is Mhlauli-Moses with Healthy Black Woman and Successful Black Woman. And this is my good friend Shaquita Graham with Loving the Black Man. Thank you, Shaquita, for another great conversation.
Thank you, Noma. It was fun.
It was. Take care, and we'll see you next time.